You think you know me. You think you can twist everyone against me. My son Michael stood in my living room, his voice cracking with rehearsed emotion. Tears streamed down his face. Real tears, I'll give him that. He'd always been good at producing them on command. How can you do this to your own son? After everything I've done for you. I sat in my armchair, hands folded in my lap, watching him perform. 27 years of motherhood had taught me to read his faces. This was face number 3. Wounded victim seeking sympathy. I'd seen it at parent-teacher conferences when he was caught cheating. I'd seen it when he crashed my car at 17. I'd seen it when he drained my savings account last year. Before I tell you what happened next, don't forget to subscribe if you love true stories like this, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done if this happened to you? Michael, I said quietly, the lawyer will be here in 10 minutes. You're welcome to continue this performance for her, but I suspect she'll be more interested in the documentation I've prepared. His face shifted just for a second. A flicker of something real broke through the tears. Fear maybe. Or calculation. Then the mask slammed back into place. Documentation. Mom, this isn't some business transaction. This is our family. I'm your son. He was right about one thing. This was about family. About what happens when someone uses that word like a weapon. When family becomes the reason you're supposed to ignore theft. When "but I'm your son" is supposed to erase accountability. I'd spent 18 months learning that lesson. Now it was his turn. Let me take you back to where this really began. Not last week. Not last year. 27 years ago, when I held a squirming baby boy and promised him I'd always protect him. Kept that promise. Maybe too well. Michael was my only child. His father left when Michael was 4. Just walked out one Tuesday morning for cigarettes and a woman from his office. I raised Michael alone. Worked double shifts as a nurse. Missed sleep, missed meals, but never missed his school plays or baseball games. He was a bright kid. Charming. Teachers loved him. Other parents loved him. He had this way of making people feel special, like they were the only person in the room who mattered. I didn't see it then, but that gift had a shadow side. The first real warning sign came when he was 16. His girlfriend Sarah called me crying. Said Michael had borrowed $300 from her for family emergency. Claimed I'd had a car accident and needed money for repairs. I'd had no accident. I confronted him. He cried, apologized, said he'd panicked because he owed money to the wrong people. Made it sound like he'd been trying to protect me from worry. Sarah forgave him. I believed him. Pattern established. He got into college on partial scholarship. I covered the rest. Wiped out the small savings I'd built. He dropped out after a year. Said the program wasn't right for him. Said he'd found a business opportunity that would pay me back triple. The business failed. No payback came. But he had new clothes, new phone, ate out constantly. When I asked about money, he'd say, "Mom, I'm networking. This is investment in my future. You want me to succeed, don't you?" Course I did. So I said nothing when my grocery money bought his networking dinners. The manipulation expanded when he was 23. Michael started dating Jennifer. Sweet girl, kindergarten teacher, came from money. Her parents were cautious about him at first. So Michael needed me to be his character witness. "Mom, just tell them how hard you worked to raise me. Tell them about the sacrifices you made. They need to see I come from solid values." I did exactly that. Talked about our struggles, our bond. Jennifer's parents softened. Within a year, they were helping him start his career. $50,000 for a consulting business. The business existed only on paper. But here's where it got clever. Michael started positioning me as the problem in his life. It was subtle at first. Comments to Jennifer. "My mom means well, but she can be controlling. She doesn't understand modern business." Then to her parents. I love my mother, but she struggles with letting me grow up. Sometimes her advice holds me back. He was building a narrative, setting up his escape routes before anyone could connect the dots about the money. Jennifer's parents started looking at me differently, sympathetic but distant, like I was the overbearing mother who couldn't let go. My sister Carol called one day. I heard from Jennifer's mom that you've been difficult about Michael's business ventures. Honey, maybe you need to give him space to fail. That's how people learn. I hadn't been difficult. I'd barely been involved. But Michael had painted that picture so thoroughly that even my own sister believed I was the obstacle. 2 years ago I had a health scare. Suspicious mammogram, needed follow-up tests. I was scared, but I didn't want to worry Michael. He was launching a new venture and seemed stressed. He found out anyway. Showed up at my house with flowers and tears. Mom, I can't lose you. You're all I have. Promise me you'll get the best care. Cost doesn't matter. Promise me. It was one of the few times I felt he genuinely cared. The tests came back clear, just a benign cyst. But the bills were real. My insurance covered most of it, but there were gaps. About $4,000. Michael insisted on helping. Said he'd cover it, wouldn't hear any argument. What actually happened? He took my checkbook to handle the bills directly, and wrote himself a check for $12,000. Forged my signature on 2 others, cleaning out my savings. When I discovered it 3 weeks later, he had an explanation ready. Mom, you're confused. Those weren't extra checks. That was the payment plan I set up. You agreed to it, remember? You were so worried about the cancer possibility. You probably just don't remember the details. It's okay, stress does that. He'd gaslit me about my own medical crisis. Made me question my memory. Made the theft sound like confused gratitude. And when I pushed back, he called Carol. Aunt Carol, I'm really worried about Mom. She's forgetting things. Getting paranoid about money. I think the health scare really shook her. She's accusing me of stealing when I was just trying to help. Can you talk to her? Carol did talk to me. Gently suggested I might be experiencing stress-related confusion. Maybe early signs of memory issues. My own sister thought I was losing my mind. Because my son was that convincing. That's when something in me shifted. Not rage. Not dramatic confrontation. Just a cold, clear realization. He would never stop. Not because he was evil, but because he'd learned that emotions were shields and weapons. And I'd spent 27 years teaching him those shields were impenetrable. I needed to change the game entirely. I went to my bank the next day. Explained the situation. The manager, a woman named Patricia who'd worked there 15 years, listened without judgment. Mrs. Harrison, we see this more than you'd think. Family financial abuse. We can help you protect your accounts, but I strongly recommend you document everything and speak with an attorney. I opened a new checking account Michael didn't know about. Moved my pension deposits there. Changed all passwords. Installed a small safe in my bedroom closet. Then I started building the file. Every text message where he asked for money. Every email where he promised repayment. Photos of the forged checks. Bank statements highlighting the discrepancies. I created a spreadsheet, dates, amounts, his explanations, what actually happened. I contacted Sarah, his ex from high school. She'd married someone else, but we'd stayed cordial. She admitted he'd done the same pattern with her. Borrowed money, manipulated emotions, turned people against anyone who questioned him. I documented that conversation. I called Jennifer. Not to attack Michael, just to ask careful questions. How is Michael's consulting business going? The answers were revealing. She didn't know about any current business. He'd told her he was taking a break to focus on family. Family meant me. Meant access to whatever he thought I had left. Hired a lawyer. Not some dramatic TV attorney. A quiet, thorough woman named Ruth Chen who specialized in elder financial abuse and family law. Ruth looked at my file. Didn't react with shock or sympathy. Just nodded slowly. "This is prosecutable," she said. "But understand, if we pursue this legally, your relationship with your son will never be the same." "Ruth," I said, "there is no relationship to save. There's a performance and there's reality. I'm choosing reality." For 6 months I said nothing to Michael. Did normal. He had no idea I was building a legal case. During this time he escalated. He got engaged to Jennifer. Asked if I'd contribute to the wedding. I said I couldn't afford it. Medical bills, I explained. He looked disappointed but understood. Then he went to Carol and Jennifer's parents with a new story. "I'm really worried about Mom's finances. She's being secretive, won't discuss money with me. I think someone might be taking advantage of her. Maybe a new friend, or she's falling for scams. She won't let me help her. Can you talk to her?" Carol called. Jennifer's mother called. Both concerned about my mental state and finances. Both convinced by Michael that I needed intervention. This was his masterstroke. If I was declared incompetent or vulnerable, he could potentially get legal control of my finances. He was positioning for guardianship. That's when I understood the full scope. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. About making sure he'd always have access to whatever I had, even if he had to declare me incapable to get it. Ruth Chen filed the lawsuit 3 days later. The papers were served while Michael was at my house for Sunday dinner. His face when the process server knocked. The confusion. The shock as he read the complaint. The immediate pivot to performance mode. "Mom. What is this? Who would you? I don't understand. After everything I've done for you. After all the times I've tried to help you. You're suing me." I let him finish. Then I spoke. "Michael, sit down." He didn't sit. He paced. Gestured. Voice rising. "This is insane. You're destroying our family over a misunderstanding about money. Do you hate me that much?" "I don't hate you," I said quietly. "I don't hate you at all. But I'm done being stolen from. I'm done being manipulated. And I'm especially done with you telling everyone I'm incompetent while you forge my checks. That's not what happened. I was helping you. You're twisting everything." "Then explain it to the judge," I said. "Ruth has all the documentation. Bank records. Text messages. Statements from witnesses. If I'm twisting things, the evidence will show that." Pause, describing his reaction. That's when his face changed. Not to another mask. To something raw. Genuine panic. Because he'd never counted on evidence. He'd been playing an emotional game, and I'd brought legal reality to the table. The lawsuit forced conversations that had been avoided for years. Carol got a subpoena for her testimony about the $12,000 incident. She called me, confused and angry. "Why am I being dragged into this?" "Because Michael told you I was confused and paranoid. The court needs to know what he said and when." "Well, I mean, he was concerned about you." "Carol, I want you to see something." I showed her the evidence file. The forged checks. The bank statements. The timeline of his stories versus the actual transactions. She went pale. "I thought. He seemed so genuinely worried about you. I thought you were stressed and maybe misremembering." "That's what he wanted you to think," I said. "That's what he needed you to believe so no one would question him." Carol cried. Apologized. Asked how she'd missed it. "Because he's been practicing this his whole life," I said. "And because we wanted to believe him. Because he's family." Jennifer called me directly a week later. She'd received discovery requests for Michael's financial records from the past 3 years. "Mrs. Harrison. The consulting business. There isn't one, is there?" No, honey. There never was. Long silence on the phone. Then, what else has he lied about? I think that's something you need to ask him directly. She did. The engagement ended 2 weeks later. Not dramatically. Just quietly dissolved when she realized the man she'd agreed to marry had built their entire relationship on manufactured narratives. Michael's attorney, a tired-looking man who'd clearly seen this pattern before, pushed for settlement. Your son cannot win this case, he told Michael in a conference room where I sat with Ruth. The evidence is overwhelming. If we go to trial, you'll face criminal charges for forgery. Right now, Mrs. Harrison is offering a civil settlement. I strongly advise you to take it. Michael looked at me across the table. Not performing now. Just looking. Mom. The settlement terms are simple, Ruth said. You repay every dollar taken, $37,000 total. Payment plan over 5 years. You sign a statement admitting to the financial manipulation and forged checks. You agree to have no unsupervised access to your mother's financial information. And you commit to 2 years of therapy. And if I don't, then we proceed to trial, Ruth said calmly. And the prosecutor who's been copied on everything will file criminal charges. Forgery, financial elder abuse, fraud. You'll be looking at jail time, not just repayment. He signed 6 days later. People ask me if I feel like I won. I don't think it's about winning. It's about stopping a pattern that would have continued until I had nothing left, financially or emotionally. Michael and I haven't spoken since the settlement signing. He sends the monthly payments through his attorney. Always on time, I'll give him that. Carol and I are rebuilding our relationship. She's more careful now about taking things at face value. We talk more honestly. Jennifer sent me a card last month. Just a simple thank you, for treating her with respect during everything, for not turning the situation into something vindictive. She's dating someone new. Says he's steady and honest. I think about Michael sometimes. Wonder if the therapy is helping. If he's developing actual insight or just learning to hide the patterns better. Tone, honest, not bitter. The truth is, I'll probably never know. And I've made peace with that. Here's what I learned through all of this. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. Family doesn't mean surrendering your reality to someone else's manipulation. And protecting yourself isn't betrayal. It's survival. Michael spent 27 years learning that emotions could override consequences. That if he cried hard enough, apologized sincerely enough, framed himself as the victim convincingly enough, he could escape accountability. I'd enabled that. Not intentionally, but through every time I accepted his explanations. Every time I chose to believe the performance instead of trusting what the evidence showed. The hardest part wasn't the lawsuit. It was accepting that the son I loved, the boy I'd raised, sacrificed for, protected, had become someone who saw me as a resource to be exploited rather than a person to be respected. But even harder than that was realizing I'd helped create that dynamic. By prioritizing peace over truth. By accepting, but we're family, as a reason to ignore theft. Breaking that pattern required something I'd never done before. I had to value my own reality more than his emotional performance. I had to let the evidence speak louder than his tears. My life now is quieter, simpler. I volunteer at a women's shelter twice a week, helping with financial literacy workshops, teaching women to recognize financial abuse patterns, how to document, how to protect themselves. I've had more than one woman cry and say, "That's my son you're describing," or "That's my daughter," or "That's my husband." Financial manipulation doesn't look like violence. Looks like love, like concern, like family helping family. Until suddenly, you have nothing left and everyone thinks you're confused or difficult. I'm dating someone, Gerald. He's a retired accountant, widowed 5 years ago. We met at a community garden. He's nice, low, honest. He knows the whole story. His response: "You protected yourself. That takes strength." Simple. No drama. Just acknowledgement. I don't know if Michael has changed. Hope he has. I hope the therapy has given him tools to build genuine relationships instead of manipulative performances. But I don't need to know. His growth or lack of it isn't my responsibility anymore. My responsibility is to myself. To the life I'm building in my 60s. To the honesty I'm choosing. And to making sure that the word family never again becomes a weapon someone can use against me. If this story moved you, like and subscribe for more stories about truth, betrayal, and redemption. And if you're living through something similar, if someone in your life is using emotion to override reality, using family bonds to justify exploitation, please know this. Documenting isn't betrayal. Protecting yourself isn't cruel. And choosing evidence over emotion isn't a failure of love. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable the pattern anymore. Thank you for listening to my story.